One.
Hi, everyone. This is real estate coach Craig Proctor, and welcome to the Craig Proctor Real Estate Show. Today, my special guest is Gary Overbeek. Gary, welcome to the Craig Proctor Show.
Thank you, Craig. Welcome.
Hey, Gary, let's start off with the areas that you serve. Tell everybody where you're from and how you got involved with Craig Proctor.
All right, yeah. So primarily we're serving the Brant County, Oxford County, Norfolk County regions. Probably about 8 years ago, I got into real estate. I was actually sick in the hospital. My broker of record, who I was working for at the time, went to a half a day conference from you, bought me a 3 day conference, and basically I was at the night before, I was like, oh yes, I better not offend my boss. I had this conference to go to tomorrow. I've been in sales all my life, so I've been to a lot of seminars, a lot of hoo-hoo-hurrahs and all this other stuff. So the next morning, here I get in my car, come to your 3 day conference, and probably within 2 hours, I was like, where can you sign me up? Because it was a completely different than any other sales training I've ever had. So that's how I joined with Craig, started implementing your system. And I would say in the first year of implementation, I would doubled my sales. Second year, doubled again. And third and fourth year, I quadrupled my sales, started building a team. I now have 3 full-time staff in the office. I have about 8 full-time agents. And I would say the rest is history. And I'm not looking back because it's probably the greatest move I've ever done.
Well, thank you for that, Gary. That's a massively huge success story to be able to double and double and double and then triple your business. First of all, I want to say your broker is a pretty smart guy buying you a ticket to the Craig Proctor event. Now, you said you were reluctant about going and within a couple of hours of the conference, you knew that this was the place for you, that it was greatly different than what you had experienced with other training. What do you mean by that specifically?
Okay, so the first thing I noticed was it wasn't someone actually just teaching me, I got to do this, I got to do that, trying to motivate me like a lot of people do. What I noticed right away was that you actually sold real estate for a number of years. I think it was 30 or something like that. So I really felt right away that the experience in the field that we were in was speaking out. So that really intrigued my interest. And then, of course, the other thing that I'm going to be honest with you, why I joined very quickly or thought about joining very quickly was when I was in your conference and I was looking around and you would mention, at the breaks, go talk to the other agents outside the door, talk to people, get a good feeling of what's going on. What I did quite quickly notice that in the real estate industry, nobody wants to share nothing, right? Because they all want the leads, they want the clients, and they think as soon as I share something or as soon as I say something, somebody's going to steal my client. I don't really have experience working in a big brokerage office, but I can only imagine everybody huddled over their desk, like barely talking into the phone because they don't want the next door agent to hear.
Yeah, it's really a kind of a scarcity mentality. If I've got something that's working for me, I don't want to share it because, they believe that, there's a shortage or scarcity of business. And you've proven that's absolutely not the case. Let's switch gears and talk about paradigms. I talk a lot about, these thoughts that we have, that we get locked into these paradigms, these ways of thinking about the real estate business. You get into real estate and everything you learn from the other agents and watching the other agents, like it's a very natural thing to do, right? Like Gary, I suppose if you and I were plumbers, if we were partners in a plumbing business, we didn't know anything about plumbing. What you and I would do is we'd look around what all the plumbers are doing and we'd kind of copy them. So naturally, that's what happens in real estate is
Yes.
The real estate courses we take to get our license teach us the rules and the paperwork. Fine. I mean, you need to know how to fill out the paperwork. You need to know the rules. Not that's important, obviously. But the one thing they don't teach you is how to get any clients,
That's right.
right? Every brokerage in the United States and Canada, they all tout, we offer training. The problem is the training often is garbage, right? It's just not that good. So that's the void my company fills, is actually creating that experience that you had. So I think this is what you were trying to say. Correct me if I'm wrong. When your broker bought the ticket, you reluctantly went. You didn't want to go. It's like the guy bought me the ticket, and you thought this is probably going to be bullshit. It's probably going to be about motivation or how to do more cold calling or how to do a better open house or how to get, ask your clients for more referrals. The same old crap that's being taught over and over again. When you met me, we talked about how to attract clients instead of chasing clients. And what I taught you is that marketing actually has rules like gravity. If I take this cup and I drop it, we know the laws of gravity. Well, marketing has rules. So I taught you our triple M formula. I said, here's Craig Proctor's triple M formula. First, Gary, you need to decide your target market, right? Who do you want to attract? Next is what message should we deliver to that target market that they would want? And then what media are we going to use? How are we going to deliver that really special message to that piece of the market? And what you realized was that you were in control and that you could attract any type of buyer or seller, and you could turn up the volume or down the volume, and you could create abundance. And when you created an abundance, to your delight and surprise, you could all of a sudden now pick and choose who you wanted to work with.
That's right. Absolutely.
And that's a game changer, right? Because when we get into real estate, it's like, well, if the guy's a jerk, I have no other clients, I got to work with them. So we're used and abused. And, if I ask the average real estate agent, who are you targeting? What type of buyers or sellers are you targeting? It's a foreign idea. They're like, well, what do you mean targeting? Like, I get what I get, right? I have to, if the guy's a jerk, I got to work with them, right? But I think we'd all agree, if we could choose, we would choose to work with buyers and sellers that are more motivated and more ready to act. And so the thing that happened to you is the same thing that happened to me. Like, our stories are very unique. How old are you right now?
41.
Okay. So you're a young guy. When I got into real estate, I was a young guy. I only got into real estate, as you know, because my father was a real estate agent. Like, if he was a plumber, I probably would be a plumber right now, Gary. But and my dad did the best he could, right? Like, my dad had been in real estate for 20 years, and it's not like he didn't want me to succeed. Believe me, he did. But what did my dad knew about cold calling and door knocking and chasing expireds, and that was his paradigm. That's what like our parents. We want to believe our parents do the best they can as parents with what they have and what they know. And when we become parents, we try to do the best we can. So I did all the things my father told me to do. And when you got into real estate, you did all the things your broker and the other agents told you. But your broker was very smart to buy you that ticket, because, if you really look back at this, that was a game changer for you. So, sometimes in life, if we look back at, there's a person or something happened, some event in our life that really changed the course of our life. And I don't want to be dramatic and say, oh my God, you went through a Craig Proctor seminar and it changed your life. But it kind of did, because it made your business a lot better. And if you got a better business, you have a better life. You have more confidence. You've got more money. I mean, people are like, well, money doesn't buy happiness. Well, being poor doesn't buy happiness either, right? So you can do a lot more good with money than without. Now, in the beginning, when the Craig Proctor marketing kicked in, you're delighted because all of a sudden you've got all this business coming in, but and you're able to pick and choose, and you became more confident, right? It's like, hey, you know what? I'm pretty good at this. And the reason you became more confident is because you were confident you could inexpensively and automatically attract clients, and because you had so many more clients coming to you. You get better. Like, if I do 3 listing appointments in a day, I'm going to be a lot better than if I do 3 listing appointments in a month. So it was that repetition.
Right.
Because I've noticed you, like when I meet you now, it's like, yeah, you've got this like newfound confidence, little bit of hop in your skip. Like, that's good, right? That's what you want. And so confidence breeds more confidence, and it attracts success, because you're good. You're good. And when you meet with clients, they sense that you're confident. So if I'm selling my house, I want to deal with someone that is confident. Plus, you have a reason for, you can back it up and show the clients the track record. Do you remember a couple of years ago, I said, hey Gary, you know what? You're going to be the top agent in your county, in your area, and what? A couple of years later, you're like, yeah, dude, I did it. I am now the top agent in our entire area.
That's right.
Uh, so that's cool, and that's why I do this because it's awesome to see these kind of success stories. It's almost like me living my life out through you in your area because I know all the challenges, I know how hard this can be, and I know like you're hungry for success, and I want to give you all the support you can so you can go, just dominate the marketplace,
Yeah.
which is fun. Now, let me ask you this: these other agents in your area, how do they feel about this massive success you've had over the last couple of years?
Well, I want to say probably for most of them, I don't want to speak out of line or whatever, but I think that at the beginning they said they laughed and they said, "Who's this new guy?" Because I don't forget I was a brand new real estate agent. I wasn't with Remax, Sutton, Century 21, or any of these big guys for years, right? I just come right out of the woodwork. I was with my broker of record for 2 years, and then I actually opened up my own brokerage because I was exactly looking for what you gave me. I was like, what are these guys? What are these other guys actually going to give me? Nothing. So I'm like, I may as well open up my own brokerage. And then I met you, and I started the marketing. So I think they first laughed, and then they went, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And I think I would probably say now they want to they're like, okay, copying us, right? Like saying, "Hey, if we just do what Gary does, we'll probably be successful." So that's actually what we're seeing now is lots of people copying us, which
That
is
would be
great.
a great if I was featuring you in a realtor publication, Gary. That would be an awesome headline. At first, they laughed, but when he started selling hundreds of homes a year, dot dot dot.
Yes.
That's like it's an awesome story. Okay, so you got all this business coming in, and there's only you, and you're like, I'm making a lot of money. I really don't want to split the commission. But at some point, you realize you couldn't do it all. And you started thinking about, well, how many homes could I sell if I had some help, if I could leverage this through people? So talk about how that transition happened, how you started hiring people and then training them on how to do it the way you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, back when I first joined you, I'm going to just tell you real quickly here. When I first joined you, some of the marketing that you actually were sharing, some of your guarantees that you were offering, they kind of scare you, right? And they're like, "Whoa, like how does this work? How do I do this?" I'm going to tell you something. I ran one of your ads, one of the guaranteed ads, within 2 weeks. I always say, let's say 2 months, but within 2 weeks, I got my first call, and I'm shaking on the phone, just to know
Hmm.
how do I answer this, right? Anyways, I sell this guy's investment property to a private buyer that I had in my pool, double-ended off-market property. So the marketing, it's par none. It's fantastic. It works like super.
How much money in commissions do you think you made from that one guy?
Well, again, I'll be honest with you. So the real estate was obviously 6, 8 years ago half the price. It was about a $300,000 deal, but it was a $14,000 commission check.
Right off of one ad.
One end,
Yeah.
one done, and it was just literally by implementing one of the marketing ads
And you
that
said that
you
was in within 2 weeks of joining up with Craig Proctor.
yeah,
Hey, do you want to know what, Gary? You just paid for Craig Proctor for the whole year.
yeah,
In 2 weeks with one ad. That's awesome. Okay,
exactly.
so the business is booming. Gary's running around, 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. You're doing all you can. And tell us about when you made the decision, like I need to get some help, and then how that's been working.
Yeah, so I was talking to you guys as a coach, right? Mike said, "Okay, listen, I'm gotten way too busy here." So then my coach said to me, he says, "You know what, Gary?" He says, "You need to hire an assistant." And I said, "Well, hold on a sec. How am I going to afford that? How can I afford an assistant for the whole year, right?" He's like, "Just do it." I guess I'm a pretty good listener. So because again, I don't know anything else about real estate. I just know you guys. So I listen and I hire my first assistant. Guess what happens? My business doubles.
Yep.
So I'm like, if I do the math
Was
correctly,
sorry, was that an administrative or a licensed person?
no, that was just an administrative assistant.
It's crazy because when I hired my first administrative person, her name was Linda, and this is a long time ago, but I think I was paying her like 25 grand a year, and that was scary for me because Gary, my story. A couple of years before I got into real estate, I think the job I had the year before I got into real estate, I made $14,000 the whole year. So here I am, 24 months later. That was scary.
Yeah.
to pay someone $25,000 a year and take on that responsibility. When 2 years earlier, before I had my license, I made $14,000 working part-time at the local hospital. So these are paradigms. And
Yes.
so whatever you paid this person, 25, 30, 50, whatever it is, allowed you to make hundreds of thousands of dollars more. But it's crazy how the mind works because you're thinking, I can't afford to hire this person. When you look back at it now and say, I couldn't have afforded not to hire that person.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
It's
so,
no different than a farmer who buys a new tractor and he says, "Why didn't I do this 5 years ago?" Right. And so what I did is I figured out, okay, if one assistant can actually double my business, what can three assistants do? So I actually went out on a limb and hired three assistants.
I like that thinking, right? And so one thing that you've heard me say that really gets the juices flowing with real estate agents is when I say this, how many homes could you sell if it had nothing to do with you? And then I just pause. And everybody starts to think about this. And what they realize is the way to get rich in real estate is through leverage,
Right.
right? And it's not like you're sitting around not doing anything and everyone else does the work, but a lot of what we do in real estate can be delegated. So the first thing you delegated, obviously, are the administrative things. You know, Gary Overbeek, you don't need to be taking the pictures of the house or getting the keys cut, standing at Home Depot, getting a key cut or making feature sheets or installing lock boxes. You don't need to be hammering in the signs. You can't change the outcome. Someone else can do it, probably take better pictures than you and I could take, right, Gary? So
Yes.
that's the first stuff you delegated. And that gave you more time to work with real estate clients. Now, here's the problem with that. When you and I hired our first administrative person, it solved the problem in the fact that we didn't have to do the administrative activities. And it did free you and I up to do more real estate, work with more buyers and sellers. But it still meant we were going to work 7 days a week. We're just doing different work. We're doing higher dollar, more productive work, working with clients. Then you started hiring licensed agents.
That's
Now,
correct.
when you and I hire licensed agents, here's what's in the back of our mind. They're not going to do it like us, right? We're kind of control freaks a little bit, right? We're like, no one's going to, and we're probably right. They're not going to do it like us, but some of them might do it better than us. And that's what I realized. When I hired my first licensed agent, her name was Lindy Black. There were things that I feel I was more talented and more skilled at, but she also had other things that, like when she worked with buyers, she was more patient. She was a better listener. And so I said, well, I'm going to give Lindy the buyers and I'll just keep on taking on the listings. And then eventually she was so good with buyers, and a lot of the buyers, she'd find them a home and they wanted to now sell their house. So we'll try her out on listings. So she would go out on listings. And the way you and I do this when we hire people is we get them to shadow us.
Yep.
And so for those watching, so what would happen is Gary goes out in a listing appointment and he takes one of his new agents, brand new hire out, and probably works like this, right? Or this how it worked for me, Gary. They sit in the chair in the corner and they just watch us talk and watch what we say. And after a couple weeks, if they're trainable, they're the right person. They pretty much have it. Now, is it going to be exactly like us? No, but good enough.
Right.
The way I looked at it, Gary, is let's say that you hire somebody and this is like overflow business. So I want everyone to understand it's not like Gary, took off to the Bahamas and is laying on the beach. You're still working and you're taking all the A listings, right? When Gary's high school friend calls and says, I want to list my house, Gary's not giving that to his new hire. It's like, I'm going to get 100% of the commission. The team is supposed to be for the overflow.
Okay.
So Gary can only list and work so many hours in a day and a week, but he created overflow through the marketing. So all the business that Gary decided I can't get to that is given to the team. And so now we got to spend a lot of time with these team members making sure they know what Gary knows. So here's how this deal works. I teach Gary, right? And I make Gary really good at this. And then Gary, now that he's really good at this, you can go and you can teach the people on your team.
Absolutely.
So let's talk rainmaker activities. of all the things that you could be doing, which it used to be everything from getting the
Yep.
keys cut to banging the signs in the lawn. What type of things do you spend your time on now?
Well, a lot of them is okay, obviously the listings and my own clients, but next to that, I spend a lot of time with the team, one-on-one training. They shadow me, just like you say. We go out to a showing, we book a buyer appointment, for example, and the buyer agents are going to shadow me, and I will basically train them and say, okay, this is how we're going to work with the buyers. We're going to sell the client, not the house, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm spending a lot of time one-on-one and team meetings, training the buyer agents to become better, um, I guess, buyer agents and work with their clients, right? As well as now I'm also spending a lot more time with my marketing team on how we're going to market our listings much better than the average agent. Because, before when you're working as a solo agent and you get a new listing, you're scrambling, you're trying to get all the listings signed. It's probably 8, 9 o'clock at night. You're going to probably show a buyer a home real quickly. Then you're racing home and you're trying to upload your marketing. How can I market this home? Upload it to social media, et cetera, et cetera. So you get limited time. Next day you're trying to book appointments. So now I can actually, okay, I've got my administrative team. They're looking after the appointments and all the day-to-day operations. And I've got my marketing team actually marketing the home. But of course, I've got to be involved in that and say, okay, how can we market this the best? So sitting down with my marketing team and coming up with, awesome ways to market the listings that we currently have, as well as how can we attract more buyers to our team.
Man, that's so true what you said. I hope everyone caught that. That was so true for me. When I was a solo agent, running around doing this, doing that, you're done, you're finished work at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and then you realize, oh, I got to work on my marketing. There's a deadline for my marketing. So here we are, Gary, you and I. We realize marketing is our biggest leverage point, but we're doing it at the end of every day when we're exhausted,
Right.
right? Like there's nothing left in the tank, and now you're trying to work on the most important thing.
That's
So,
right.
would everyone agree with that? Everyone watching, let us know. Smash the like button. Let us know in the comments if you agree that marketing is your biggest leverage point. There are all kinds of really good, skilled, knowledgeable agents all over the United States and Canada that are suffering and struggling, not because they're not good agents. They are. They're very good at the
Yeah.
technical parts of real estate. The issue is not enough people know about you. And that's the problem I saw for Gary. And Gary's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's easier when people call you and say, hey, Gary, can you come and list my house? To the point where Gary's like, I can't even go out on them all.
Well, and
So,
back to what you were saying before, you get to choose who you get to work with. And that we don't mean this in a bad way, but I'm going to be honest with you. Probably in the last month, I said no to about 3 or 4 listings.
yep.
And I can do that because they're just overpriced listings, people who want way too much money in this market. They ain't gonna sell anyways. And I'm like,
Mm.
listen, I don't got time to put up stuff that's not gonna sell.
Well,
I've got
yeah,
to
taking
go
on a
work.
listing that's overpriced and the seller's not motivated, it's not a moneymaker. It's a crushing expense because it's not going to sell and you're going to spend all this money marketing it. But I get why agents do it. I mean, I used to do it. I didn't like it wasn't like in the beginning that anybody was banging down my door. I was banging their door, right?
Right.
You can't, you can't really beg somebody for their listing and then, complain about having it. But that's the position that many real estate agents are in. And marketing
Yeah.
solves all this. Okay. So marketing is the number one uh, source of leverage, and then leveraging yourself with people. Okay, systems and people. So you're an efficient one man or one woman, one man show, one woman show,
Yeah.
and then you can multiply this. Now,
Yeah.
the way you've got this set up, there really is no limit to how big you can grow this business because as the marketing grows and the opportunities grow, you can just continue to hire people and hire people. And if you're, by the way, if you are watching this and you operate in Gary's market, you should contact Gary and have a conversation about partnering up with him. Okay. Now, you might have some kind of preconceived notion, but you should check this out because here's how this would work. Let's say that you're a buyer agent right now, you mostly working with buyers. Gary cannot work with all the buyers he had. So if you were to partner up with Gary, he wouldn't just give you leads. In fact, he wouldn't give you leads at all. The leads go to the inside sales department. If you were to partner up with Gary, he would actually give you appointments with buyers. These are buyers that are qualified, they're ready to act. So you wouldn't have to waste your time, buying leads or cold calling or door knocking or sitting in open houses. You actually get the overflow buyers that Gary can't possibly work with by himself. And I think that's the number one thing that agents want is, every brokerage promises, well, we'll give you leads or we'll give you training. Okay. How good is the training?
All right.
The training in the industry is in fact so bad that your knee-jerk response, Gary, when your broker bought you the ticket to the event was, I don't really want to go. Right. That's
Great.
right. And a lot of real estate agents have that perception about real estate coaching because here's what they think. They think, okay, is this going to be like Tony Robbins motivation, rah, 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 the little train can go up the mountain. No, we don't. How we motivate you is giving you good ideas that actually work. That's how we motivate you. Another thing that agents think coaching is about, which is, I'm not saying it's not the case, but not at Craig Proctor. They think that coaching is about, a coach is someone that makes you do things that you don't want to do. So, there's a lot of coaches out there. It's like, hey, Gary, did you make your 200 cold calls today?
Right.
Right. So we don't do that either. So it's not all about, we don't, it's not a motivational stuff. It's not about accountability. So what is Craig Proctor coaching? We give you intellectual property that causes buyers and sellers to contact you. Then we coach you and train you on how to work with the buyers and sellers and build a business that's so big that you can start hiring other people. And what that does for you is you make more money than you could possibly make any other way without giving your life up. I think that's a pretty good summary of what this does.
Yeah, and not only that too, what I appreciate anyways is I've never found this with any other companies is when you give us the marketing, it's not like, oh, hey, just try this and see if that works. It's kind of like you've tested it, you've done it, so you know it works.
Yeah, I hate when people are telling real estate agents to do these wild ideas, something they read in the book or something they heard about that they've not actually done. You never get that with Craig Proctor. All of our coaches, myself, we've all made millions of dollars selling real estate, actually doing the very things we're teaching our students to do. So it annoys me. There's some big name coaches out there that claim to be the best or the number one coaches who ironically have never sold real estate. They've never had a license. Like how? Gary, that would be like you and I declaring tomorrow, Craig Proctor and Gary Overbeek, we are the number one coaches for heart surgeons. Well,
Yeah,
have you guys ever been doctors? No. Have you ever performed heart surgery? No, we haven't done that. It's
that's right.
amazing that real estate agents don't ask any questions. I'm saying, look, I'm not saying Craig Proctor is the coach for everyone. I'm just saying having a coach is really a good idea, but you got to have the right coach. But before you hire a coach, you should ask a few questions. Here would be a good question. Have you ever had a real estate license? Have you ever had a buyer in your back seat? You ever done an offer at midnight before?
Yeah,
Have you ever made millions of dollars? Have you sold tens of thousands of houses? And so if I want to play golf, I want to learn from somebody that didn't like learn golf by reading a book. I want to learn from somebody that actually played the game and is good at this. All right, now let's switch gears because we're supposed to be actually talking about the ultimate listing presentation. But
yes.
and this would be if you give Gary and I a couple beers, this conversation might be 4 hours long. It probably wouldn't even be about real estate. At some point, we'd come back to it. But um, the the ultimate the ultimate listing presentation. What does that mean to you?
Well, that's yeah. So that's one of the first things that I really implemented when I joined you is I took a look at your listing presentation and what we actually call it is the ultimate listing and marketing presentation.
Mm,
Okay. So what we're doing in our listing presentation is we're actually documenting how we work different than another agent and how our team works different than another agent. So if we're obviously in front of a seller who's ready to list their home and they're interviewing 3, 4, 5 agents, the other, of course, we always joke about this in our office, but the other 4 or 5 agents are probably coming with their country music awards, right? Like, a few CMAs and that's
yeah.
about it. So, but the seller's going, okay, what sets you apart? And especially in the market that we're in right now, where everybody's like, what is it going to take to get your house sold? They're not just going to their friend. So they're going to look at who can get the job done and what are they doing to get it done. So our listing presentation shows a what how we work different than any other agent out there, and we don't call them our competition because, well, really they're not our competition anymore because we work so differently. And then B, one of the other things, the main thing in our listing presentation is we would show the clients what we actually are going to be doing for them. So not just telling them we have social media. No, we say to them, or we show them, here's how we generate 30 to 40,000 views online within a week of listing your with property. And we say this is how we do it. Not just, hey, we're going to throw it on online, we're going to throw it on a website where we don't know where the leads are going, we don't know if somebody's calling the sign call. We show them our marketing, and then of course the last part of our presentation, we show them about the benefits if you join our team, how our team gives back to the community. So our worthy causes are in there, and we support Ronald McDonald House. A lot of people know that entity, right? So they send their kids there. And we feel like we're very involved in that house, and we share with them, listen, if you're to list with us, we're not going to shove all that money in our pocket. We're going to actually give it back to those in need and help them and help others.
Love it.
So,
Love it. So everybody get that? Everyone that does business with Gary, a portion of the commission that he earns goes back to his worthy cause, which in this case is Ronald McDonald House. So he's giving back to the community. Yeah, and that's way better than just saying, I want your money. It's like, hey, we're going to show you exactly how we're going to do this, what makes us different and better. We're going to give you certain performance guarantees that, here's what we're going to do, and we're actually going to do this. And if we don't do this, here are the consequences. So, you've got somebody that's not just coming in here telling you a bunch of things that aren't going to happen. And when we sell your home, we're going to give a portion of our income back to the community, to our worthy cause. Now, how long did it take you, do you feel, to really get this listing presentation, really get it down? So, you know what I'm saying, Gary?
yeah,
When
I know.
that feeling that you had, it's like, you know what, I'm good, and I know I'm good, not in a cocky way, not in a bad way, but you just felt, because like when I got into real estate, the first couple listing appointments I had, this was what I was thinking. They're never going to list with me, right? Or why would they list with me? I had that total lack of confidence, but that quickly switched around to, why wouldn't they list with me? Of course they're going to list with me. When did you start to get that feeling?
Yeah, so obviously when I started doing a listing presentation, this takes me, well, most people can see already that I'm a little bit of a talker, right? So when I get involved in my listing presentation, it probably takes a little more than an hour. And at first, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm so nervous. I've got to do this slideshow presentation to a potential listing person, in which just interviewed 4 other agents who came in with their quickness and whatever else, and actually only offered a low commission because that's the only way they would get the deal. When I started practicing this listing presentation, and of course, quite often I'd say I would go to a friend's house or an acquaintance or someone who called me because they knew me, and I'd be like, all right, this is one of those times where I don't have to use it. And what I started finding out was every time I used it, I would get my fee, no problem, no questions asked. And then I would also get way more listings. So I started realizing that, hey, this is like rule number one. I have to use this no matter who it is that I'm dealing with. And so I realized really quickly, if I don't use this every time, the people especially the people who I know, they're not going to realize what it is that we actually do for them. And because I started using it every time, I would say probably within, I don't know, 6 months, I start to use this so much that I can probably do the listing presentation out of my head now. And
Gary, you're probably doing it in your sleep, right?
I
But
am.
I'm so glad you mentioned this. For those of you watching, if you've got a really good listing presentation, first of all, what happens is it's really good because sellers are listing with you, even if they're interviewing other agents. Sellers are listing with you, even though you're charging a higher fee than the other agents are speaking to. Sellers are listing with you. They're choosing you, even if the other realtors they're interviewing are offering a lower commission and even telling them a higher price. So that's the job of the listing presentation. The job of the listing presentation is to build so much credibility with you as the agent that they want to work with you and only with you, right? Like you're almost operating in a category of one. I like what you said a few minutes ago, Gary. You said, really, there is no competition. Like you've really created this situation where you're operating as a category of one,
That's right.
which is great in business, right? We want to be in a category of one. The other thing that you said there is sometimes, and I used to do this every once in a while, I get a bit lazy and not do the presentation. And this might be an example. So, somebody you went to high school with, someone you've known your whole life, you're like, I don't really need to do the presentation, right? And what happens is you still may get the listing, but you don't get it at the full commission. You don't maybe get it at the right price because you got lazy with it and you skip the presentation. I'll tell you, the kiss of death for me was if a seller said to me, hey, don't worry, Craig, when we're ready to list, we're good to go. We're definitely going to go with you. And as soon as I'd say that, I'd like, okay, well, I guess we don't need to do the full bore presentation. And that cost me so much money. So I just
Yeah.
learned what you just said is I'm doing I don't care if it's my mother. I'm doing the whole
That's right.
presentation. I'm going to do the whole thing because you're building credibility. You're educating them on the value, on what makes you different and better. So, and then when you're doing it all the time, of course you become really good at it. Imagine just like saying the same things in the same order over and over again to get the same great result. Now, some of you might think, well, that sounds boring. Well, think about this. If you jump in an airplane, you sure as hell want the pilot to have a flight plan. You don't want the pilot winging it. If you're going for surgery, you don't want the surgeon not to have an operation plan. It's like, oh, we're going to cut Gary open today. Let's see how we're going to do it today. No, as professionals, we need to have this is the best way we do it, right? This is for listing, it's the ultimate listing presentation. By the way, we're going to drop in a report below this. I'm going to have Faith drop that in, and it'll be about, how to implement this, how to do better listing presentations, talk about systems. So make sure you download that. And we'll also, Gary, give us your contact information, and I'll have Faith drop your contact info below as well. So if somebody wants to talk to you,
Yeah.
chat you up, maybe they want to join up with you or just want to verify your story and you're a real guy, how would they do that?
So hey, you know what? As a realtor, my cell phone's actually not even online anymore. This is how good the system has worked for us. So my personal cell is 519-317-4922. If anybody wants to reach out, you can text or call me on that number.
Okay, and
Wait, it's
if
already buzzing. It's already
it's
buzzing.
good, good. Now, if some of you aren't sure where Gary operates, so he gave you all the counties. So it's in Southwest Ontario.
Yeah,
Okay, that's where Gary operates because give us those counties again.
Brant County, Oxford County, Norfolk County, and my office is in Woodstock, Ontario.
Woodstock, Ontario. So if you Google Woodstock, Ontario, you'll that's kind of the biggest city that you would recognize. But it is in Southern Ontario. So what are you? A couple hours drive from Toronto? Hour and a half?
Hour and a half. Yeah,
Hour and a
hour
half
and a half from
drive. Okay.
Toronto, half an hour from London.
Okay. Cool. All right, Gary. So I want to thank you so much for being with us today. It was entertaining. It was like it. It's always great to talk, and I'm so proud of all your success. And I know it's just going to keep growing because you're hungry for it, and you're likable. And I think that's a key. And I'm going to say this with the ultimate listing presentation, you still have to have a little bit of personality, and you have to relate to people. So I think we would all agree that you could have a great presentation, you could have a great track record, but if the client doesn't like you, if they don't feel that connection, they're still not going to use you, right? So Gary also has that, right? He understands how to read the buyers and sellers and basically be the salesperson that they want, which is a whole different thing we talk about with DISC personality testing. So, Gary tested himself and goes, oh, okay, yeah, this confirms I'm like this. These are my strengths. These are my weaknesses. There's four major personality types. Okay. There's D, I, S, and C. And mistakenly, when we get into real estate sales, here's what we think. Well, this is the way I make buying decisions. So everybody's like me, right? No. If you're a high D or high I and you make decisions quickly and you don't like a lot of details, that doesn't mean that the buyer or seller you're meeting with is like you. I think many of us have run into instances where you're there for an hour, you think you've done a great presentation, and the seller is very detailed. Maybe they're an accountant or an engineer, and they say at the end of the hour presentation, "Well, I need to think about it." Now, the wrong approach, believe me, I've done this, is, well, what do you need to think about? I've been at your house for an hour, right? The best approach would be, hey, we've covered a lot of information tonight. Why don't you think about it and I'll follow up with you tomorrow? Because that's what they want to do anyway, but you're making it your idea. So these are other things that we teach you inside of Craig Proctor Coaching. It's not just the benefits and this awesome presentation. It's not just what to say, but it's how to present this presentation to the four major personality types.
Yeah, and just to mention one real quick thing about that, why again it's very important to know the listing presentation. As your success builds and you become a little bit more known in your area, and I'm probably Craig, you had this too. What I've learned over the last 2 years is I start to get some phone calls for people who want to list their house. They already know that they're going to use their cousin or their friend, but they want a good professional's opinion. So I find I'm there for an hour. I'm giving them my opinion, what the value of their home is, and then I get into the listing and marketing presentation, and I found, oh, I'm not getting this listing because their friends listing it. But when we're in a different market now and that's changing, guess who they're going to call now? Because they're like, I don't need my friend anymore because they're not doing the marketing and they're not doing what Gary's doing. So again, that's probably a real good reason to know the listing presentation out of your heart.
Well, that is true. A lot of agents are, concerned or complaining about the marketplace. But here's the good news with the slower market. What Gary just said. Sellers now are really being careful with who they choose as an agent. They're not so, quick to list it with a friend or a relative or Uncle Joe that sells part-time. Who the agent is really, really matters, and the sellers know that. So if you're a top agent, this is always good news. I know in down markets, I personally always increase my market share as a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Now, if you guys would like to book a call with my team, it costs $0. That's the good news to talk to us. And the way that you can do that is you're going to book a time slot. We do it over Zoom, and you would go to proctorcall.com. So just my name, proctorcall.com, and we'll drop it in below. It's a clickable link, and how it works is you go to my Acuity Day Timer. You pick a day and a time that's available that works for you. Now, you might be thinking, well, what is this? Some kind of sales pitch? Not at all. Did you guys feel today was a sales pitch? No. Now, in a way, I do sell you by just helping you. That's how I mean, when you attended my seminar, did you feel I was selling you? No.
Not at all.
How I got Gary as a client is I showed him a whole bunch of valuable things and I didn't hold anything back. I did the opposite. I overwhelmed him. His head felt like it was going to explode. And I let everyone know, if you like this, if you like my style, if you'd like someone to actually prove to you that they can help you by just actually helping you, then jump on a free call with us. Go to proctorcall.com. It's over Zoom. Now, when you register for the call, just to let you know we actually care about you, we're going to ask you some questions because we want to know, like, how long you've been in real estate, how many homes you saw last year, do you have a team, tell us about your team, that type of thing. So when you meet up with us on Zoom, we know a bit about you, but we can actually show you things on Zoom. And, if you like it, great. Maybe we could talk about you getting further involved with Craig Proctor. And if not, of course, it's on Zoom, so you can hang up anytime, right? Or not book it at all. But I hope you do. I hope you've enjoyed this interview. I certainly did anyway. I always enjoy jumping on with Gary. And Gary, we're going to get you back here. We'll get you back here later this year to follow up on your progress. So keep just doing what you're doing, keep growing and learning and doing an awesome job. But let us know the comments below, everybody. Let us know what you thought of this interview. Okay. Gary Overbeek. Okay. He's in Woodstock, Ontario, Canada. Superstar Craig Proctor member. Let us know what you learned, whatever questions you have, and go ahead. You can contact me, book a call. You can speak to Gary directly. So we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for watching another edition of the Craig Proctor Real Estate Show. And Gary, once again, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Craig. It was a joy. It was a pleasure.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you later. See ya.